the stage Patrick Hurley, who's going to tell us about the other Velvet Underground.
Thank you. Right. If anybody knows anything about the Velvet Underground, it's that they had Banana Man on the front cover of their first album. No, they didn't. They had the banana, but still, history could have been so different if they'd have had Banana Man. This is actually what you know about them. Mo Tucker, Sterling Morrison, Lou Reed, John Cale, they wore black, they wore sunglasses, they took drugs, and they had S&M sex. That's pretty much what people might know about the Velvet Underground. But I'm going to tell you, they've actually got more in common with Spinal Tap and the Sugar Babes than you could possibly believe. Because by the time they'd split up, they'd gone through about 18 different drummers, and they were a completely different band. This guy was their first drummer, Angus McLeese. He quit after their first gig. He was absolutely disgusted that they'd accepted payment for the concert. That's hardcore. How dare you accept payment for the concert? So we've got this guy in Jerry Malanga. He only lasted one concert too. He turned up with bongos. I cannot imagine what that must have sounded like. You might know their first proper singer, Nico. Her original name, Krista. She lasted about a year or so, but then eventually fell out with most of the band and left. This is where it starts to go south a bit, because they get Doug Yule in. You can tell he doesn't really fit in, because he's not dressed in black and he's not got shades on. He's also only 21 years old, so I'm guessing he wasn't really into injected heroin and having S&M sex in the street. They needed a drummer, so he actually gets his 16-year-old brother, Billy, who's still at school, to come in and start playing drums with the band. You can see they're not quite the same kind of vibe going on that they had here. Billy then leaves, so they get this guy in, Tommy Castagnaro, from a doo-wop band. I mean, look at him. Poor lad. This is interesting, right? So Adrian Barber, who was a local lad from Liverpool, who was in the Big Three, and he was out in Hamburg with the Beatles, actually played on a song called Who Loves the Sun in 1970 by the Velvet Underground. On their album, they didn't have a drummer that day when they turned up to record. So Adrian was in the studio and just said, well, I'll just play. Anyway, I'm putting him down as a member of the band. You can tell they're getting into the 70s now, really, because they've gone into colour. We had Walter, who played bass. This is Willie, who looks very much like Walter's twin brother. He played guitar for a bit with them. And by this stage, the chronology's got a bit skew-with, because they've got another bass player. I mean, God, he looks a bit scared, doesn't he, there? It's almost like you're wandering around New York streets and just get randomly asked to join the Velvet Underground. This is interesting, right? Ian Pace from Deep Purple needs a drummer, so they bring up Deep Purple. Can you lend us your drummer, please? And they said yes. Who knew? But this is where it gets a bit weird, I think. It starts getting a bit weird. Again, a very long 15 seconds. Did anyone go to the John Cale gig? It was shit, wasn't it? Don Silverman. They get him in on guitar, right? He changes his name to Noor Khan and goes missing for 20 years in Afghanistan. They only discovered him in about 2012 that he was still alive. I've not been able to find out anything about this bloke other than that's his name, that's his image. Other than the fact that Paul Weller evidently based his whole image around what this guy looks like. George Kay played bass for 6 months with them in 1973. He's now on LinkedIn offering guitar lessons to children. And you can see in the background there's a little child there playing the guitar from the guitar player from the Velvet. He's on LinkedIn, you can look him up, you can get the guitar player lessons. Mark Norsif, yet another drummer. What they were doing, going through all their drummers, and like I say, Spinal Tap, I'm half imagining that they just took them around the back and shot them because they were all shit. I like this one. They did the live album, and there's always somebody talking too loud at the live album. It was this guy. He was saying, does anybody know where I can get some pills tonight? And they actually picked it up on the album. But that's how you get from 1966, with them all dressed in black and in shades, to 1973, completely different band, completely different vibe, and not even half as good. Thank you very much.